Hey guys, it's Mrs. Sostetta. I'm here to show you how to complete your assignment 222 through 224, Elements, Compounds, and Mixtures. If you're a B day, it will say 223 through 225. They'll still be the Elements, Compounds, and Mixtures. So this is a 2-day lesson. It took us 2 classes to complete this. So it says today we will complete some guided notes using the attached Google slide, and you'll complete a self-paced Nearpod about pure substances. And then there's 2 steps. Number 1, open the attached Google slide with your name on it. There's also a teacher copy attached, and you're going to fill out the guided notes. And then you're going to click on the attached Nearpod link once you finish the guided notes and do that independently. So number 1, open the attached Google slide with your name on it. Once you open this, you'll see 4 boxes. You need to type down the definitions for atom, element, compound. So you can follow along with me on the video to fill these out, or you could open up the teacher copy here. When you open that up, it'll take you to the definitions that you need to fill that out. So we're going to first start talking about atoms. So you're going to type the atom definition right here. So atoms are the simplest particle of an element that retains all the properties of an element. So you're going to learn a lot about atoms in 8th grade, but just remember that everything's made of atoms, and they have a joke that says, why should you never trust an atom? Because they make up everything. So they are the simplest particle of an element that retains the properties of that element. Atoms are the building blocks of life. So you could copy and paste this. You can reduce the size. So now we're looking for element. So an element is a substance, it's a pure substance that's made of just one kind of atom, and it cannot be broken down into a simpler substance. Elements are what you find on the periodic table. You see one element on the left, and that's made of our red atoms, just one type of atom. There can be many of this one type of atom that make up the element, but it's just the same type of atom. Then on the right, we have a different element made of a different type of atom. They're all the same atoms making up that element. So we could pretend that this element here on the left is oxygen, and all these atoms are oxygen atoms. And then this element on the right, we could pretend that's hydrogen, and all these atoms are hydrogen atoms. So you can go ahead and copy the definition. A substance that is made from one kind of atom and it cannot be broken down. Now we're on compounds. Actually, we're on molecules now. Molecules, 2 or more chemically combined atoms. They can be the same or different types of atoms. So a molecule, if you have 2 oxygen atoms chemically bonded together, then we would have a molecule of oxygen. So anytime you have more than one atom chemically combined, then you have a molecule. So they can be the same atoms combined, or they can be different atoms. And a molecule is different from a compound for that reason, is that a molecule can have 2 of the same atoms combined. They don't have to be different to be a molecule. And so on the picture here, you see you have O3, so that's 3 oxygens. That's a molecule of oxygen. But over here we have another molecule, and that has oxygen and carbon in it. So a molecule can be different atoms of different elements, or they can be the same atoms from the same elements. And if you have 2 identical elements combined, we don't change the name. So if you have 2 hydrogens, then it's still hydrogen. If you have 2 fluorines, then it's still fluorine. 2 oxygens combined in an oxygen molecule, then it's still oxygen. So now we're on compound. So you're going to go to your compound square. And it says a compound is a substance that is made from more than one different elements. So a compound has to be made from different elements. So you see on the left, this is a compound made from two different elements. The blue atoms would be one element, the red atoms would be a different element. On the right, this is also a compound, but this is made up of 7 different elements. So the elements combined and they make a compound. They are chemically bonded together. The only way to break a compound up or to break those chemical bonds is to put the compound through a chemical reaction. And you're going to learn a lot about chemical reactions this year. So we have finished slide 1. Our notes are complete. And so now you're going to break down your element on your next slide. So you're going to jump over to slide 2. So this is a picture of a compound, and I want you to break it down into elements. So this compound is made of 3 different elements, so your job is to sort the elements. So you're going to find out how many atoms of element 1 are in this compound, how many atoms of element 2, and how many atoms of element 3 are in this compound. So go ahead and sort your elements and find out how many you have in this compound. And you can pause the video while you do that. Next, you're going to decide whether these materials are made up of an element or a compound. So you have material made up of element or compound on the top, and then for materials you have water, coal, carbon dioxide, oxygen, chalk, wax, table salt, and caffeine. So hydrogen and oxygen make up water. So water is made of more than one element, so we're going to call that a compound. Anytime it's more than one element, if we have 2 different elements combined, at least 2 different elements combined, then it's a compound. So water is made up of a compound of hydrogen and oxygen. But what about coal? Coal is carbon. It's only made of carbon, one element, so it's made up of an element. So your job is to go through here and label these as elements or compounds. If they have more than one different element, then it's a compound. If it just has one element, then it's made up of an element. So go through your list and label. You can pause. Once you're done with that, you can click over to slide 4, and you're going to click here to build a molecule. It does take a minute to load. Once your FET loads, you're going to click on the single mode. And I want you to notice that there are bowls filled with atoms, and we're going to use these atoms from these different elements. So this is oxygen, an atom of an oxygen element. We're going to use these atoms to create our own molecules. So notice there's arrows, so you can move and have new elements and a new amount of atoms. And then there's a collection you're going to complete. So go ahead and start with water. So that's H2O. So we need 1 oxygen, and we need 2 H's, H2, and you need to put 1 hydrogen on each side of the oxygen. In some computers, you can see a 3D model. You can go ahead and drag that in, and it tells you when you got it right. So your job is to go through here and to make the rest of these molecules on your own, and you can move on. There's a couple different collections, so you can do this as long as you'd like until you get an understanding that our molecules and compounds are made up of these atoms from different elements. Once you're done with that, we're moving on to mixtures. You've learned about mixtures before, so hopefully this part is kind of a review. So mixtures are a combination of 2 or more pure substances, and they're not chemically combined. These are physically mixed together. No chemical change takes place. Each item still has its unique properties. So when you mix up salt and water, you still have salt and water, and they're just mixed together, and you can separate those physically if you needed to. What's new about mixtures are there 2 types of mixtures. You have heterogeneous mixtures, which are mixtures that look different throughout. So like trail mix or soup, you can tell that this is a mixture. It looks different throughout the mixture. A homogeneous mixture is like Kool-Aid or air or sweet tea. When you look at these, it looks the same throughout the mixture. It's the same color. You can't tell that it's a mixture just by looking at it. And so you're going to have to remember these words in 7th grade also. These are important words. It's heterogeneous, means it looks different throughout. Homogeneous means it looks the same throughout. So now your job is to drag and drop the pictures. So homogeneous pictures are the pictures where it looks the same throughout the mixture, like the cake batter. But our heterogeneous mixtures will look different, like the chocolate chip cookie. I can tell that there's chips mixed up with the cookie. So it's heterogeneous because it looks different throughout. Homogeneous, the mixture looks the same. So go ahead and separate your pictures. Once you're done, you can pause the video while you sort those. Once you're done, you can move to slide 8. And on top of slide 8, you have element, compound, and mixture. And then it gives you a description. And you have to decide, what is this describing? Is it describing an element, a compound, or a mixture? So I'm going to give you the last 3. This has a specific ratio of elements. That's a compound. A compound has a specific ratio of elements. If you're making water, it has to have 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. If you have H2O, that's water. But if you have H2O2, you don't have water anymore. You have something else. Next one, this is represented by a chemical formula. That's a compound. Compounds have chemical formulas. So water is a compound, and its chemical formula is H2O. And then right here, it is represented by a chemical symbol. That's an element. On the periodic table, you'll see that elements have a chemical symbol. So hydrogen's chemical symbol is H. So your job is to go through here and determine which description it's describing, an element, a compound, or a mixture. Once you're done with that, you can fill in your blanks for our periodic table notes. And that's also on the teacher copy. So everything that's underlined is what you're going to fill in. So the periodic table is a useful way to arrange elements. The vertical columns are called groups. So right here, you're going to type the word groups. The horizontal rows are called periods. So these rows going left and right are periods. Elements in the same blank have blank properties. Elements in the same group have similar properties. And if you wanted to delete the line, you could highlight it and then just type the word. And that will delete the line. Then it says 3/4 of the elements are metals, and it has a blanket parentheses. So what percent is that? 3/4. So 3/4 is 75%. So 75% of our periodic table are metals, and the other 25% are non-metals. 75, 25. So now you're done with that. Your next job is to identify your elements on the periodic table. So it says, now look in your periodic table to find the name of the symbol that corresponds, find the name of the element that corresponds to the following chemical symbol. So you'll click on this link and that will take you to the periodic table. You can hit Control F, click on the page and hit Control F, and then a little search bar will pop up. This will be helpful. So the first one we're looking for is Fe. So I see it right here, iron, Fe. When you hover over them, it will tell you the name. So this is iron. You can also type in, if you're having a hard time finding it, Fe, and then it highlights it in yellow for you and helps you find it. So we're going to go ahead and write iron. And your job is to go through this list and label all of the elements using this periodic table. You can go ahead and pause the video while you're completing this list. And then lastly, you're going to answer these questions on your own. You have all the information to answer these questions in your slideshow notes and on the periodic table. If you have any questions or you're not sure how to complete this, comment or email me, please.